Hello, history lovers, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're rediving into one of history's most tragic mysteries, the destruction of the great Library of Alexandria. For centuries, we've been told a simple, dramatic story. A single, catastrophic fire that wiped out the ancient world's greatest collection of knowledge. But what if that story isn't the whole truth? What if the library didn't just burn, but was slowly and deliberately erased from existence? Stick with me as we unravel the real reasons behind the fall of this legendary institution. First, let's set the scene. Imagine a city that was the New York or London of its time. Alexandria, Egypt, founded by Alexander the Great himself. At its heart was the Museum, a shrine to the Muses, which was essentially the world's first major university, and the jewel in its crown was the library. This wasn't just a building with a few scrolls. It was an intellectual powerhouse. Scholars from across the known world flocked here. We're talking about giants like Euclid, the father of geometry, Eratosthenes, who calculated the Earth's circumference with stunning accuracy, and Archimedes, the brilliant inventor. The library's mission was ambitious, to say the least, to collect all the knowledge in the world. Every ship that docked in Alexandria's harbor had to surrender any books on board. Scribes would then frantically copy them, keeping the originals for the library and returning the copies to the owners. It's estimated that at its peak, the library held between 40,000 and 400,000 scrolls. This was humanity's brain, a vast repository of literature, science, philosophy, and history. The loss of this knowledge is often called the greatest intellectual catastrophe in Western history. But did it all go up in smoke at once? The first suspect in our historical whodunit is none other than Julius Caesar. The popular story goes that in 48 BC, while pursuing his rival Pompey in Egypt, Caesar found himself besieged in Alexandria. To gain a strategic advantage, he set fire to the enemy's fleet in the harbor. The flames, whipped by the wind, supposedly spread to the docks and consumed the nearby library. It's a dramatic tale, and one that has been told for millennia. Even the Roman philosopher Seneca lamented 40,000 books were burned at Alexandria. But here's where it gets complicated. Modern historians are skeptical. For one, Caesar himself, a meticulous record keeper, never mentions burning down the library in his own accounts of the Civil War. He talks about the fire, yes, but he focuses on the ships and dockside warehouses. It's highly likely that some scrolls stored in those warehouses were indeed destroyed. But was this the main library? Probably not. The Museum and the main library were located further inland, away from the harbor. Furthermore, scholars continued to work and reference texts in Alexandria for centuries after Caesar's visit. The geographer Strabo, writing decades later, described visiting the Museum and made no mention of it being a smoking ruin. So, while Caesar's fire likely caused some damage, it was far from the fatal blow. The library survived. If Caesar didn't deliver the killing blow, then who did? Our investigation now moves forward a few centuries, to a period of intense religious and political turmoil. The Roman Empire was changing. The old pagan gods were being replaced by Christianity, and this shift wasn't always peaceful. In the late 4th century AD, Emperor Theodosius I issued a series of decrees outlawing pagan practices across the empire. These weren't suggestions, they were orders. In Alexandria, a zealous Christian patriarch named Theophilus saw this as his moment. He led a mob to destroy the Serapeum, a magnificent pagan temple. Critically, the Serapeum housed a daughter library, a significant secondary collection of scrolls that was part of the greater Alexandrian library system. Eyewitness accounts describe the temple being torn down, its statues smashed, and its sacred texts scattered or destroyed. This was a deliberate act of cultural and religious cleansing. The destruction of the Serapeum library in 391 AD was a massive blow. It wasn't an accidental fire. It was a targeted demolition fueled by ideological fervor. The goal wasn't just to destroy a building, but to erase a competing worldview, the knowledge and philosophy of the classical pagan world. But even this wasn't the end. The main library, or what was left of it, limped on. So let's turn to our final suspect, neglect and the sands of time. A library is a living organism. It needs constant funding, care, and a community of scholars to keep it alive. As the Roman Empire began to crumble, its priorities shifted. Funding for frivolous things like philosophy and science dried up. Imperial patronage, which had been the library's lifeblood for centuries, was diverted to military campaigns and public works. The intellectual climate also changed. The passionate, open-ended inquiry of the classical era gave way to rigid dogma. Why debate the nature of the cosmos when religious texts provided all the answers? Scholars stopped coming. Scribes were no longer employed to copy and repair deteriorating papyrus scrolls. Without constant maintenance, the scrolls simply disintegrated. Papyrus is fragile. It's susceptible to moisture, insects, and simple decay. Imagine a library where no one ever buys a new book or repairs an old one. Eventually, it just fades away. This slow, agonizing decline is perhaps the least dramatic, but most accurate explanation. There was no single cinematic inferno. Instead, the Library of Alexandria likely died a death of 1,000 cuts, a fire by Caesar, a deliberate demolition by Theophilus's mob, and centuries of budget cuts. Political instability, and simple, crushing neglect. Each event chipped away at the great institution until nothing was left but a memory. There is one more chapter to this story, though often cited as the final nail in the coffin. In 642 AD, the Arab army led by Amr ibn Alas conquered Alexandria. A popular legend, written centuries later, claims that the Caliph, Omar, was asked what to do with the remaining books. His supposed reply was chilling. If what is written in them agrees with the Quran, they are not required. If it disagrees, they are not desired. Destroy them. According to the tale, the scrolls were then used as fuel to heat the city's 4,000 bathhouses, and it took 6 months to burn them all. It's a powerful story, but almost all modern historians agree it's a fabrication. It was likely invented later as a piece of anti-Islamic propaganda. There are no contemporary accounts of this event, and it seems wildly out of character for the early Islamic world, which was known for preserving and translating ancient Greek texts, not destroying them. The great house of wisdom in Baghdad was built on the very knowledge that Alexandria once housed. So, while it makes for a good story, the bathhouse bonfire almost certainly never happened. So, what's the real takeaway here? The story of the Library of Alexandria is a powerful cautionary tale. It teaches us that knowledge is fragile. It's not just threatened by fire and war, but also by intolerance, apathy, and a lack of funding. The idea of erasing knowledge, of silencing ideas that we disagree with, didn't die with the library. It's a danger that persists. Today, when we see people trying to ban books, or when funding for arts and sciences is slashed, we are witnessing the same forces that led to the library's demise. The destruction wasn't a single event, but a process, a slow decline from a beacon of universal knowledge into a casualty of political ambition, religious intolerance, and societal indifference. The greatest tragedy wasn't a single fire, but the gradual realization that no one cared enough to save it. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into one of history's greatest mysteries. What do you think is the most compelling reason for the library's fall? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and want to explore more hidden histories, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us continue making content like this. Until next time, stay curious.